Hello everyone. We are going to start with the second chapter, sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So the main part of the plant which is involved in this sexual reproduction is the flower. We know that flower is a modified stem. Okay. And this flower, it has four whorls. So the first whorl of the flower is called as the calyx, and the second whorl is called as corolla, and the third one is called as androecium, and the fourth one is called as gynoecium. So first whorl is calyx, second one is corolla, third one is androecium, and the fourth one is gynoecium. If all the four whorls are present in a flower, then the flower is said to be complete flower. If all the four whorls are present in a flower, then the flower is said to be complete flower. If any one is absent, then the flower is said to be incomplete flower. Okay? And when you just look at the flower, all the four whorls arise from the thalamus. Arise from the thalamus. So this part is called as thalamus or torus or receptacle. So this is the part where all the four whorls arises. Okay. So when you talk about this gynoecium, it has a small ovary and then long one, style, and then the stigma. Okay. So this is the ovary and this is the style and stigma. So all three joined together is called as a pistil. Okay. So this is the female part of the flower. Pistil, which consists of ovary, style, and then the stigma. Right. And then you have a long filament with the anther lobe. So which is the male reproductive part of the flower. So here this is called as anther and this is called as filament. And anther and the filament joined together is called as stamen, which is the male reproductive part of the flower. Okay. And next comes here the petals. Right. And then you have sepals. So this is called as a petal. So each one is called as petal. Each one is called as a petal. Group of petals form all together is called as corolla. Group of petals form corolla. Likewise here this is called as a sepal. S-E-P-A-L. Group of sepal forms calyx. Group of sepals form calyx. So calyx is the first whorl, corolla is the second whorl, androecium, that is nothing but the stamen, which is the male reproductive part of the flower, that is the third whorl, and pistil is the fourth whorl. So if all the four whorls are present in a flower, then the flower is said to be complete flower. Okay, right. So next we are going to learn about the male reproductive part of the flower in detail, and then we will be moving on to female reproductive part of the flower. So next is male reproductive part of the flower, stamen. So this stamen, it has the anther and then the filament. anther and filament. So this anther, normally when you just look at the structure, it is monothecous and dithecous. Monothecous or it is dithecous. So if it is monothecous, here theca represent a lobe. So if it is monothecous, it represents only one lobe. If it is dithecous, di means two lobes. Right? And here when you just look at the filament, if this is the torus or receptacle or the thalamus, okay, where this filament arises, here you call as the proximal end, and here you call this to be distal end. Why it is proximal end? Where it is attached to the origin. So you call this to be proximal end of the filament. Here this region is called as the proximal end of the filament, and here where it is farther away, it is called as the distal end of the filament. Right? So both together is called as the stamen, which is the male reproductive part of the flower. So normally when you just look at the filament, it is not the same if this is the anther. In some case, if you just look at this, the filament will be present at the base. Then you call this to be basifixed. Basifixed type of anther. Or the other type, if you see, the filament arises from the dorsal side. Then you call this to be dorsifixed. Right? Or sometimes what happens, it will be present all along, right? So it will be present like this. In this case, you call this as adennate. Or sometimes it will be like this, diagonal, right? So in this case, it is called as versatile. So these are the type of anthers where the filament is being fixed to the anther. Okay. Now when you just look at this anther, when you just take the section of the anther, actually here it is both the lobes are this connected with a connective tissue. Here you call this as a connective. This connective will be sterile. This connective will be sterile. Okay. So when you're going to just take a section like this, when you take the section of the anther, you can see structure like this. Right? Okay. So this is one lobe. These two are considered to be one lobe. And this is the other lobe. This is one lobe. Okay. But when you just take the section of the anther, you can see here structures. Microsporangia. When this is young, you call this to be microsporangia. But when it is matured, it is considered to be a pollen sac. Right? So each lobe has 2 microsporangia. So most of these stamen in angiospermic plants, if you see, they will be dithecous in nature and they will have 4 microsporangia. Yes. So today we have seen about the structure of the flower and then about the structure of the stamen. And then we'll be continuing in the next video. So if you like this video, share, comment and subscribe my YouTube channel and also follow me on Facebook and Insta. Thank you.